Doors closing.
And now something completely different.
Happy Hour. Happy Hour.
What's up? This is Hoppe Hour. I am your host, Ryan Hoppe, and on the phone line from the show on Rock 105.3 in San Diego, Thor is on Hoppe Hour with Ryan Hoppe. What's up, bro?
Hey, man, how you doing? Thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
I'm doing good, bro. So I like to ask all the people that I interview on the show about what time they get up in the morning, because some people get up around 5:30, some get up around 3. On an average morning, what time are you waking up?
So that's funny. So my alarm goes. So I have like 4 alarms set because I have in the past one time ever in my life I showed up because I slept through my alarm. I showed up at 5:58, and it was like the biggest nightmare of all time.
Yeah.
So I have one alarm that's like my wife got it for me. It's a sunrise alarm. So that goes off at 3:50, and it slowly gets brighter and brighter. And I have it set across the room, but then I turn that off and then go back to bed, and then my 3 iPhone alarms go off at like 4:06, 4:09, and 4:12, and then I get up at like 4:15.
What I do when I'm working on a morning radio show is I set an alarm 30 minutes before I have to get up. And if I'm laying next to a girl, it drives them nuts. But the reason I do it is because there's no worse feeling than when you want more sleep and you literally woke up like 30 seconds before your alarm. There's something about what I do, and it's really helped, is I wake up like 30 minutes before and I just kind of lay on my back and almost meditate, because then I kind of am getting a chance to wake up. I might put on a song because I need a few minutes. I was realizing I was burning out because I was sleeping until like 4:45 and then waking up. But dude, also there's those mornings that you just want more sleep, and you literally, like you were talking about it on the show like 2 weeks ago about going to the airport. Dude, I couldn't imagine going to the airport on a work night because I'm like a baby, bro. I need my sleep.
No, my mother-in-law came into town, and for some reason she booked a flight at 9, and it got delayed till midnight.
Yeah, crazy,
so
bro.
So my wife went and got her, but I have 2 dogs and 2 cats. So as soon as they got home, they all went crazy. So yeah, it was brutal because I got about 2 hours of sleep.
Yeah,
so for me, going to sleep is the hardest. I could get up because it's work, but going to sleep is where I lose, where I kind of get screwed.
Last night, I had the absolute hardest time sleeping. I don't know why. I think I got a little too high, and I just had this panic attack. I didn't go to bed till like 2, bro. And it was one of those things that now I'm like really tired. I hate it where you know you need to go to bed and you can't go to bed, but then like you pay for it at like 2 p.m. when you're like dragging ass. There's nothing worse.
No, it's the worst. That's why you need that mid-afternoon nap. I wish all people could have that. I usually nap for like 30 minutes, 25, 30 minutes. I wish I could nap longer, but give me a good solid like 20-minute nap in the middle of the day, and that usually makes it so I'm not so groggy after that. You got to get that 20-minute nap in.
Now, are you a coffee or energy drink guy? Without being too like gross, I don't like when I drink coffee in the morning and then I have to go to the bathroom 45 minutes in. So I just drink. I prefer to wait till later on in the morning to do that. So I just drink energy drinks because it immediately wakes me up. So like, are you a coffee guy? And what's your routine in the morning?
So I always I'm a coffee guy because I need something. I'm not a morning person, which is ironic because I'm on a morning show now for 13 years. But I'm not a morning person. So if it wasn't for coffee, I'd be screwed. And I've tried every different kind of coffee. I've tried the at work coffee, that doesn't work. I've tried like the bigger thing of coffee, that doesn't work. But my wife just got an espresso machine. So it's like 170 milligrams of caffeine coffee. And I make that in the morning. It's like a K-cup kind of thing. And then I bring it to work with me, reheat it. But the weird thing about me is I don't start drinking it until about 5:45. So like I bring it when I get to work at 5 a.m. and then I don't start drinking it until like 5:45 because I want that first thing of caffeine to hit me right as we're on the air in the 6 o'clock hour.
Yeah, it's not a hard job per se, but I think what's frightening about it is when we have an off day, it's more noticeable than if someone has an off day at an office job because you're talking to a lot of people. And there's been
Yeah.
times I wasn't the best on a show at that day, and I would kind of sit in it all day back
Yeah.
when I was in my 20s. I just literally was like, have you ever had those days where like it wasn't like your best show, and then you're like driving home and
Yeah.
you're like, oh man, that could have gone better, that could have gone better.
Oh yeah, I mean, today I was super tired for no reason, and like people don't want to hear me be miserable and tired. That's why you're not listening to my show for that. So it took me a long time, and like my host Eddie, he really helped with this. It took me a long time to know, hey, once the on air button goes on, you gotta turn it on. It doesn't matter what's going on in your life. You gotta be on and you gotta be happy. But that doesn't mean I don't make mistakes. And I run the board. We do a little different where I run the board and Eddie's the host, I'm the co-host, and then we have Sky, who's our news girl, and then Emily, who's our producer, and I run the board. And it's the four of us. And Eddie's really good about letting us all get equal time to talk. So I'll make mistakes on the board, and it's embarrassing. And I used to let it snowball because if I make a mistake, everyone knows I just made a mistake. And I used to let it snowball where one mistake would turn to 5 mistakes. But now I've gotten a better where if I make one mistake, I just make one mistake. But I'll definitely be driving home being like, oh my God, today they set me up for this sound I was supposed to play and I hit the wrong button or something happened. But luckily, like I'm really lucky. I work with 3 great people who don't lose their minds over not hitting the right button.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people where they will lose their minds if you hit the wrong button. But luckily, we're all pretty close and cool about that.
My favorite memory of something going wrong. The first one is I left the board down for a minute during the highest paid sponsor in prime time at 7 a.m. And I, for some reason, forgot
not good.
I was like potting down the rejoiner music and I never potted it back
Yep.
up and I just went to break.
Back up.
So that's my one memory.
there.
And then I worked on a morning show and they would go on a cruise every year. They would interview like Bert Kreischer, Ralphie May, all of these comedians.
Yep.
The morning show decided to do shrooms and edibles while recording the episode and did not get all the bleeps. And I had, this is my first time dealing with a 30-second thing where it goes to 24, it goes to 18, it goes to 12, it goes to 6. I thought every time you pressed the dump button, it just was going to like nothing. I didn't know that after 5 dumps, you literally are out of time. And a comedian calling Nikki...
Have to revamp back up.
Oh, yeah. Calling Nikki Glazer a C word went over the radio waves. And it's... I didn't really get in trouble because there was only so much everyone could do because the swears just kept coming in. But I'll never forget the day, bro. The news director comes in and goes, it went over. And I went, what went over? And he went, the C word. I was like, oh.
Yeah, that's not good. Yeah, I hung up in mid-interview in my first week on the air on LaDainian Tomlinson by accident. We were interviewing LaDainian Tomlinson, who's a Chargers Hall of Famer.
Yeah, he is.
And he went when the Chargers were in San Diego. It was my first week on the show. I just signed my first contract, and I accidentally hung up on him in the middle of the interview. I don't know what happened. And then I want to say a year later, me and my girlfriend broke up, and then that morning I spilled coffee all over the board while we were on the air, and the board started malfunctioning.
Oh no!
And we had to have and while we were alive, so we had to have an engineer come in and like change out different pots on the board while we were alive.
Crazy.
That was a bad one. I've also done this thing too when I was a board op. I just got. I don't know how I didn't get fired. I just got hired as a board op. But you know, you work in radio and you do everything they tell you to do. And this was in 2011. So I was an intern for the morning show, and I was also a board op on overnights. So at the time, I'm working 6 to midnight, probably 4 days a week, and I'm working 5 to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Those were my hours, and I wasn't getting paid for half of that. And so I brought an air mattress with me and my dog, and I would sleep, and then every hour my alarm would go off, and I'd look at the clocks to make sure all the stations are running okay. But I slept too long, and one of the stations was off air for 45 minutes. So they called me freaking out, and I think I made up a lie that I was in the bathroom, and I forgot to take the board op phone with me. But like I said, I don't know how I didn't get fired. So those are like the 30 big mistakes I've made in radio.
Now, how did you get into radio?
So I was working. If you're not familiar with San Diego, we have like our own Coney Island. It's called Mission Beach, and there's a roller coaster down there. Because I'm originally from New York, so I moved out here, and I started working at this place called the Mission Beach roller coaster in San Diego. If you ever get out to San Diego, it's a great place to come visit. It's like our own Coney Island, and it's right on the water. And I became basically the janitor there. I started painting this roller coaster as a seasonal job. They liked me, and they said, "Hey, do you want to like pressure spray the ride and do all this stuff?" And I said, "Sure." So I started doing that, and this was in 2008, 7, 8, and I was making $15 an hour. I had full benefits, which in 2006, 7, that's decent living, you know. And I would always listen to the radio. I grew up listening to sports radio. I loved sports radio. Being in New York, listening to Mike and the Mad Dog with my dad, and I would still listen to the radio at my job. So I always wanted to get into sports radio. And one day I was 24 years old. I get to my job, and I'm sipping on coffee, and my boss tells me, "Hey, I hate to do this to you, but a homeless guy took a crap behind Crazy Cars. You need to go clean that up." And at that moment, I said, I can't do this anymore. So I decided to go to a junior college and get an internship, and then I got a promotions gig through the internship in the radio station, and then one thing led to another, and I became the phone screener for the morning show I'm on now as just an intern, and that was like in 2011. That's how it kind of all started.
Now, going back to listening to the radio, you know what show I've listened to online for a while until
What?
he passed? I actually, and he's very controversial, but I actually liked Imus in the morning.
Oh yeah, I used to listen to Imus. Yeah.
Yeah, because like there's a lot of people, I feel like there was this weird era, because what I like about your show is that you guys are like edgy, but there was like a weird era. Sometimes I'll go back and listen to old shows online, and man, like 20 years ago, I don't know if humor got better or worse, but there was like this weird era where I think it was pre-Me Too. Like things were wild back then, bro.
Yep. No, I know. I agree. When I first started on the show in 2011, you could say things that you can't say anymore.
Yeah.
And then it hit a point, I want to say from like 18 to like 2021, where like I made a Megan Trainor joke. I said more like Megan No Trainer. Am I right? And like, it was a stupid like off the cuff joke. Like, and I said it in like the stupidest way. And I remember being told, "Hey, you need to be careful." And I was like, "Oh man, we used to say." So like, I think I could get away with saying the Megan Trainor joke like that today, but between like 2018 and like 2021, if you said a joke like that, you were in trouble. And it's not. Luckily, it's gotten a little bit better.
Yeah, did you guys ever get fined for anything? Because there was a point in radio where everybody was getting fined.
Not really. Not that I know of. I mean, we've been lucky, knock on wood, in that sense, where we haven't really. We've got. I don't think. Like I got in trouble once for something I said, but it was more from my. But it wasn't like, it was like my boss heard it and she was like annoyed by it. But no one made like any claims or anything like that. We've been pretty lucky. We're pretty good in that sense. We find ways around things, or we know, I'd rather play it on this. We want to still be edgy. We want to still do our jokes, and we do everything we can to be ourselves and not be fake and hokey. We're just ourselves. And I think that we could still be ourselves, but also play it safe. And we have an uncensored podcast called the P1 Podcast, which you can find on the iHeartRadio app. Just go type in "The Show Presents" in the iHeartRadio app, and you get our whole podcast network. And our P1 Podcast where we can curse and we say things that are crazy. So we save any really crazy stuff for that.
Has there been any content though on that show that the bosses were like, "Don't say that"?
I'm trying to think. Not really. Because like when everything was getting pretty crazy, we kind of really reeled it in. And now it's like slowly getting a little bit better. But so not really. Not that anything I could think of that was like, we probably shouldn't do that, or we probably shouldn't say that. I don't think so. No, I don't. I think we've been pretty lucky in that sense.
What was the vibe in San Diego when the Chargers went to Los Angeles?
Oh, it sucked, man. It sucked. I mean, it sucks because the city is stupid, and the mayor at the time is an idiot, and the people that run the city are morons, and the people that vote in this city are idiots. And I will say that to the day I die. They wanted to do a hotel tax to help pay for the stadium, and it didn't get passed. But also, in the same sense, Dean Spanos is a jackass because he left, and I get that the Chargers are worth more because they're in L.A., but they're also, nobody gives a shit. Oh, I'm sorry. Can I not curse?
You're fine.
Okay. Nobody gives a crap about the Chargers in LA. No one. And like people care about them in San Diego, and they just couldn't work it out. So when they left, it sucked. I mean, we would go to training camp every year. I had relationships with players. I'm a massive NFL fan. I'm a New York Giants fan. And but still I love the NFL, and like it's just dead. It's just the Padres are good, but they're the only team in town. And it sucks because we went from a major market with the NFL to we have the Padres and then a bunch of minor league teams, and that's just such a bummer. We don't get the Super Bowl, we don't get big concerts. And San Diego is the best city in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, our weather's 70 and sunny every day, and we're not getting the Eras Tour from Taylor Swift. We're not getting WrestleMania. We're not getting the Super Bowl. We're not going to get those things. And it was such a mistake that they didn't build a stadium out here for the Chargers.
Now, how did you move to San Diego? Like, what happened?
So I was living in New York, and I was going to college out there, and I got thrown out of college for getting too drunk, and instead of going to class, I was partying.
Yeah.
So I got thrown out, and then my parents basically said, you gotta either leave, like go get a job somewhere, or you can't stay here. So I ended up coming out to San Diego when I was 19, and I've been out here ever since. I mean, this is my 19th year in San Diego. I'm 38 now, so it's pretty crazy to think about.
Yeah, there was a party scene in the 2000s and early 2010s that I look back on how much partying I did, and it feels very I don't have any shame about it. But I was like, I don't even know what I was trying to do, you know? It's weird.
Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah, I'm actually sober now. I don't drink or anything like that. I've been sober for 17 years. So, but yeah, I totally get it, you know, and that's one of the reasons I came to San Diego. But when I got to San Diego, I didn't stop drinking. I was kind of living in, I was like living from couch to couch, and it wasn't great. I didn't get sober till I was 20. So the first year when I was in San Diego, it was not a great scene. But luckily I was able to turn it around.
Now, there's been a lot of moves being made in radio. Where do you think radio is going? Like, what has changed in the 14 years that you've been in radio?
Well, I mean, podcasting has taken over, right? So luckily for our show, we started podcasting before anyone started podcasting. We were posting our podcast on our website back in 2011. So that was before anyone was podcasting. And so we have a pretty good podcast following. We have people that listen to our podcast all over the country that were in the military from being in San Diego at Camp Pendleton, or that just found out about our show and still listen. I mean, I get people that DM me that listen to our show in Japan or in Boston. It's awesome, you know. So I think our show, people want real, and people don't want hokey and cringeworthy stuff anymore. People don't want War of the Roses anymore. And I don't mean that, it's not a knock on people that do War of the Roses. If it works for you, that's great. But people want real life stuff. That's why podcasts are so successful. Podcast people aren't doing War of the Roses. Yeah, and listen, and they have their thing, and that works for them. But I know one of the reasons we're successful is because of we're real.
Yeah.
And I think podcasting is. I think in 5 years, I think radio, especially a company like I work for iHeartRadio, and I think in 5 years or less, most of the company is going to be a couple of shows. And it's going to be, because voice tracking and all that stuff, this is my theory. I think all that stuff's going to be gone pretty soon. And if you're just a voice track show and that's all you could do is 1 minute breaks, I you got to be more versatile to that. They want personality, they want stories, they want to talk about your life. And luckily, I work with 3 great people who all get it, and we all do that. And in the same vein too, I think there's way too many podcasts. Every out of work actor or retired athlete now has a podcast. I mean, I'm a big Amy Poehler fan. I think she's hysterical, and I just saw she has a podcast.
Ugh, it's terrible.
And it's just like she can't probably or like those idiots Jason Bateman and the other 2 idiots that have that successful podcast. It's just like they can't act anymore, so let's start a podcast. And it's like and so many people do that, and so many of them are unsuccessful. But because they can get their celebrity friends on, they can have a podcast.
The thing is, like, a lot of them, if you say that you don't like it, people immediately go, "No, I'm jealous. I'm jealous," or "You're jealous. You're jealous. You're
jealous."
I'm
not jealous.
No, but I'm not
jealous.
I'm saying,
I just think it's crap content.
Oh no, yeah, but that's what I'm saying is a lot of people. Whenever I've said I don't like this show or I don't like this show, people will be like, "Oh, you're jealous." It's like, no, I think it's because I'm such a radio mind, going to the radio school I went to and being around big shows that. It drives me nuts when there's like no host that drives the show, because a lot of these podcasts, it's just like rich, vapid people talking in a room, like, ho, I did this week or whatever. And it's like, it just feels fake.
It's frustrating. Yeah, it's frustrating. Like Conan O'Brien could have a podcast because Conan O'Brien knows how to do an interview. And not every podcast is bad. Like I give Alexandra Cooper credit. I mean, she's totally taken off with Call Her Daddy, and that's awesome. And I wish she's great. But there's so many people that do that aren't good, and they have a name. Like there's so many like terrible like let's be real. If Travis Kelce and didn't date Taylor Swift, him and his brother wouldn't be having a successful podcast right now. I mean, I think we all know that. And as a radio guy who knows radio and who has a good show and have been doing this for years, it sucks that we don't get Ben Stiller in studio anymore because Travis Kelce and his brother played in the NFL and they were dating Taylor Swift. So now now Ben Stiller goes on that show. So we don't get the guests we used to get. It's just, it bothers the crap out of me. I hate it. And so many of them are bad. But because the celebrities don't do any other shows, like a lot of every comedian has a podcast.
Oh my God. And it's the same thing over and over. Because what it is a lot of these guys listened to Opie and Anthony when they were on. And I was a huge Opie and Anthony fan. And a lot of them, because Rogan began to format and said that he got the idea for his show from Opie and Anthony. So they were literally the original podcast. And then all the comedians, every comedian that ever went on that show, they all have podcasts, and they're trying to do the Opie and Anthony format. But there was a reason why it worked, because they were Opie and Anthony. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I do. And like, it's frustrating, man. And like it makes our job harder, but we don't rely on guests. I mean, we never relied on guests. So we are come up with our own content and our own stuff. And I think we're more relatable, you know. I also think a lot of comedians and a lot of bigger podcasts rely so much on 15-second clips on TikTok for their podcast.
Oh my God, yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's a whole nother thing.
Now, before I let you go, could I get you to record a liner for me?
Hey, what's up? This is Thor from the show on Rock 105.3 in San Diego, and you're listening to the Hoppe Hour with Ryan Hoppe.
Perfect, bro. I appreciate that. Now, before I let you go,
problem, dude.
Before I let you go, how can people find your show if they're not in San Diego?
Yeah, so you just download the free iHeartRadio app. It's free. Go to the podcast section and type in The Show Presents, and you'll get our full show podcast, our uncensored P1 podcast. During football season, Eddie and I do a fantasy freaking football show. We also have some of our benchmarks put in there, like my meltdowns, or we do play a game called Bombed at the Beach, and different stuff like that. So it's all right there. Just type in The Show Presents full show or The Show Presents P1 podcast, and it's right there on the iHeartRadio app.
Well, dude, it's been a lot of fun having you on the show. Literally, man, it's been a good time, and keep up the good work.
Thanks, man. I'll hopefully I'll see you at boot camp.
I will 100% be there. I actually have to get the plane tickets today. We'll have to get maybe not a beer, but we'll get a drink and hang out.
For sure, man. Have a great rest of your day.
All right, you too, bro. Thank you.
No problem. Bye.
And that was Thor from the show on Rock 105.3 as he called into Happy Hour. Now, if this is your first time hearing my voice, hi, my name's Ryan Hoppe. I am the host of the show. It's a mix of a radio show and a podcast format. 50% of it is rants on celebrity news, and 50% of it is interviews with radio hosts. So go on every major platform and search up Hoppe Radio, Hoppe Radio, to listen to Happy Hour.
TikTok, clocks a juke, we're playing cruel pranks. Hoppe's hour almost done, feels like robbery in banks. Ryan Hoppe on the mic, dropping wisdom in streams. Syndicated sorrow, now it's time to shatter dreams. Oh, the Happy Hour is coming to a close. Radio waves fading like a wilted rose. Laughter and joy dissolving in the air, but we'll keep the rhythm. Oh, life's just so unfair. Buzzing, but the laughter's growing dim. Eardrums mixing Hoppe like fingers without rings. DHX to FM, shout out hit the street, but soon the sound will vanish like shadows in the heat. Oh, the Happy Hour is coming to a close. Radio waves fading like a wilting rose. Laughter and joy dissolving in the air, but we'll keep the rhythm. Oh, life's just so unfair. But the laughter's growing dim. Eardrums mixing Hoppe like fingers without rings. DHX to FM, shout outs hit the street, but soon the sound will vanish like shadows in the heat. Oh, the Happy Hour is coming to a close. Radio waves fading like a wilting rose. Laughter and joy dissolving in the air, but we'll keep the rhythm. Oh, life's just so unfair. Oh, life's just so unfair. Every night like clockwork to a show. Now it's time to face the silence like a TV on snow. Ryan Hoppe held the mic with humor so divine. The void left in our hearts wider than a canyon line. Empty speakers silent, I becoming to an end. Like a roller coaster stopping round the river's bend. Hoppe's jokes and jabs, these are daily grind. Now silence louder than the thoughts we can't rewind. Oh, the Happy Hour is coming to a close. Radio waves fading like a wilting rose. Laughter and joy dissolving in the air, but we'll keep the rhythm. Oh, life's just so unfair. The Happy Hour is coming to a close. Radio waves fading like a wilting rose. Laughter and joy dissolving in the air, but we'll keep the rhythm. Oh, life's just so unfair.
Happy Hour. Happy Hour.
RyanHoppeRadio.com.
And like that, he's gone.
Whenever we're going outside, all I smell is poop.
I'll kick you in the nuts and we'll call it a day.
Happy Hour is now over.
Happy Hour is now over.
Game over. This concludes our broadcast day. Good night, and God bless America.
Doors closing.